Hello. This is our show. We are getting ready to launch America's Heroes Group Roundtable live stream digital media show. And today is Wednesday, July 31st at 5 p.m. And we are all awake, very wide awake, and very happy to have our guest, Valerie Creedon. She is a local licensed clinical social worker, and she is actually looking to talk to us about something that's very important. We know that July is American Diabetes and National Minority Health Awareness Month, but that all rolls into things that we need to have for care for our veterans. And who better to talk about that than Valerie McCreedon? She actually is going to be talking to us about the post 9/11 military to VA program and what it means, what are the components of it, and why is it so important for our veterans to know this and to be able to, respond to it appropriately and use the services. They're there for you. And she is one of those dedicated people that sits there and waits for you to come in. So we want to make sure you know that people are sitting there waiting for you to come in. So welcome, Valerie. You can tell us a little bit about this program and how this programming partner, Jesse Brown, VA, M2 VA program and services works. Okay.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Dr. Arnold. We are now called the Post 9/11 Military to VA program. In the past, we've gone by other names. Some people are familiar with us as the OEF, OIF, OND program. Sometimes they've heard about us as TCM or Transition Care Management, Post Deployment, Combat Care Management. We're the same program. We're just trying to get to that name that really reaches out to people and clarifies a little bit what we do and who we're doing it with and who we want to reach and get them engaged in services. So we work with the returning combat veterans, and we also work with folks coming from military treatment facilities. There are transfers that come sometimes directly from there to us. So folks may still be on active duty for a little while, which is okay. We're able to work with them as well. We can assist family members as well to some degree if it relates to veterans care. And we also now work with, which is a little bit of additional than we have historically in the past, but we work with anyone that has separated after 9/11, post 9/11 veterans that are transitioning from the military to the VA. So if you've never come to the VA since you've been separated from the military, we're looking to reach out to you as well, whether or not you had combat. We want to make that transition easy, and we want to make it look good and like something that you'd want to do, help you cut through any barriers, understand the systems, learn about the different resources and benefits that you have available to you, help you understand the language of the VA, which can be very different than the DoD or a regular hospital setting or a civilian setting. We want to make sure that you know that there's unique services available for you, that many people, once they've taken advantage of the services, I've heard them say, oh, geez, I wish I knew about those earlier. I mean, we have things like recreation therapy that we work directly with in our program. We have a liaison with the recreation therapy program that comes to our meetings on a regular basis so that we can connect our veterans to recreation therapy, for example. Not everybody knows that that's a service that's available. We connect people with mental health services, with primary care services, audiology, orthopedics, whatever it may be. And sometimes we can help coordinate appointments if you're coming from a long distance and maybe you have 3 different appointments and you'd rather come on one day versus 3 days in a row, making that long drive in the city of Chicago traffic. We can help with that. We can answer questions about letters that you get in the mail from the VA. We can help coordinate appointments in the community to some degree if you're having trouble figuring that all out, like resources for figuring out your post 9/11 or your GI Bill to utilize for college. There's all sorts of things we do now nowadays. And another thing that's happened since since March 5th of 2024, the president enacted the PACT Act into law, and that expanded VA healthcare and benefits for veterans exposed to burn pits, Agent Orange, and other toxic substances. So that's a lot of our veterans too that maybe in the past weren't eligible or didn't think they were eligible for services or care. This has changed that dramatically. It's opened up the availability for healthcare for many of those veterans, and we are trying to help the VA nationwide spread the word and tell people about it so they can come in, register again, check out their eligibility, see what has changed, and if they're eligible now. For example, for our combat veterans, they extended that enhanced combat eligibility period from the 5 years it's been to 10 years now. So if it has been 10 years, if it's within 10 years of your separation from the military, not from when you came back from combat, but from when you separated from the military, and you were in combat, you have an enhanced combat eligibility period, which means your income and other things are not taken into consideration at that point. You are eligible for VA healthcare. So we really encourage everybody to take advantage of that, get registered and enrolled. Once you're registered and enrolled, that's not going to change. You may at some point have a copay. You wouldn't during that 10 years. The copays are currently $15 for a regular appointment and $50 for a specialty appointment, but there's not standard monthly fees like there are that most people think of when they've got health insurance. So registering for the VA doesn't mean that you're automatically signed up for those regular traditional healthcare plans where you're paying a monthly fee for your health insurance. This is a benefit that you've earned. It's not an insurance. It's a benefit, and we want everyone to take advantage of it. And we certainly want anyone that's been in combat to take advantage of that enhanced eligibility while they can.
Yeah. So how does this affect the family members too? Because I know a lot of family members are worried about their service members and how they are, actually receiving services. And I know you probably have some interactions with family members. And how does that go? How does that sort of play out?
Sure. So we do have family therapy available in terms of couples therapy at Jesse Brown and at our at some other satellite sites. So that's an option. We also work in conjunction with veterans. We're not necessarily, unless we have permission from the veteran, we can't give out details of the veteran's care to family members. But if family members want to give us a call and tell us some concerns or information that they would like to have addressed at the VA with their veteran, we can certainly listen to those, and then we can ask the veteran for permission. More often than not, they give it to us, and we're able to work together to treatment plan, come up with plans that work towards everyone's goals, right? Because sometimes our heroes are just that. And they're not always willing to talk about some of the things that need to be brought up in order for us to work on things. So family members can be crucial in providing information and helping us help veterans. We have things in place also like caregiver support program, which is beneficial for family members. They can be you can talk to your primary care provider, and if you're eligible, if the veteran is eligible, then a caregiver can be assigned, and that can be a family member, and then they potentially could even be eligible for health care. They are eligible for services and support services through the VA and through our caregiver support program. There's also something called CHAMP VA that service-connected veterans are eligible to apply for their family members, where they would be eligible for VA healthcare as well.
What about the regular services at Jesse Brown VA? How does this impact their services that they normally see a provider, a primary care clinician or specialist? And do you, help, coordinate that kind of care too, especially with those people who are already, in the system?
Sure, absolutely we do. We work directly with VA liaisons at military treatment facilities for those that are coming to us directly from a military treatment facility. And most often, we will know what appointments they need ahead of time, and we can get those set up before they've even arrived back home. So, if whether it's a specialty appointment or a primary care appointment or both, we can get all of that set up before they even come home. For those folks that are already home and that are registered and enrolled and working towards meeting whatever medical or mental health goals they're working towards, we can work with them to kind of, depending where they're at and what they need. If they need reminders and help with setting up and coordinating appointments, we can help with that. We have we have a lot of younger veterans in our program that are school aged, which I guess these days is everyone, right? We can all go back to school if we want. But if you're going back to school, for example, our health tech has been instrumental in our program in assisting veterans with getting all that kind of paperwork that needs to be filled out ahead of time by primary care docs. Their, their physicals for school or immunization records, things like that. Our health tech is able to coordinate and get that paperwork completed without having to come in necessarily for an appointment just for that. And then, like I said a little bit earlier, if you have multiple appointments, we can help coordinate those to try and get them on the same day, or we can also help coordinate to get them on a day when you're not in class, or where you're not working, or a day that you will have childcare, so that it meets your schedule. And we can occasionally get a walk-in accommodated as well to make sure that our veterans are seen.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot of things to coordinate care, to keep the family functioning, because it can be really disturbing,
Sure.
when people don't know, first of all, how to navigate the system, and then they have family members, especially if the person who is being treated has some severe, medical issues, especially with PTSD or
Right.
some cognitive decline or some really advanced stages of disease such as cancer or kidney disease.
Right.
So having that support service is really critical. I'm sure it takes a lot of the burden off of the family members as well. But then the children are also involved in this story too, and I'm not sure of how that sort of plays into everything, because the children also have to be part of this healthcare network team, and I'm not sure if if those services are extended to the entire family or just to the basically the spouses.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the VA is not really set up for childcare. We don't have all the necessary tools, equipment, things that smaller people need. So, and we're not legally allowed to provide that care. But what we do provide is referrals and resources for that information, and into the community and local facilities that the veterans can utilize with their family members, their children, their loved ones, and access care that way for them.
And then, also what, so how is this funded? This is funded through, I guess, the Department of Defense, or the funding for this comes through the hospital system. And I'm not sure of how that's allocated, and whether there's any legislation that's going on that's important to be aware of, to make sure that we're supporting that kind of initiative.
For children and families, or in general for the services we're providing?
For making sure that this program is supported, because it seems like it's essential that we need to be aware of it and taking advantage of it. And you have people who are post 9/11, military families, people coming back from overseas. So you're taking care of people, not just people who are veterans who have, retired, or, left service, but people who are actually engaged, who are actively in the military as well as they're engaging with the VA. So if they come back from, overseas and all that, any special things that we should be aware of as far as care concerns, or things that we should be doing as veterans to let people know that this is value to us, because everything comes back to dollars, funding, and what how can we play a role in that?
For the active duty folks that we're working with, um, they're wrapped into the transitional care, the case management that we're providing. The VA has a handbook 1010 that states we have to provide this care, that we have to have a program. So each VA in the nation has a post 9/11 military to VA program that's available for these returning combat veterans and active duty service members to utilize. So anyone at any VA can walk in and ask to speak to the program manager, and that person should be available to them. In terms of receiving care and funding for that, if they are still on active duty and require care before they separate, then we would work with the VA liaisons that are at each military treatment facility to secure TRICARE authorizations that would cover that care for the service members. That would be where that funding comes from. And then for those that have returned home, part of the funding at this point during the first 10 years would come from the PACT Act, because there's no copay for anything that is related to combat during those 10 years. And then after that time, there is a possibility of a veteran being service connected that would fund it wouldn't fund, but it would take away their copays. So they wouldn't have a copay if they're service connected. If they are, there's a small copay that could potentially be assessed. And that funding comes from Congress through the Department of Veteran Affairs, and our budget every year.
Very
So
good.
yeah.
Yeah, what because my mother was a social worker for she was from the age of 21 to 91. She was actually still seeing people and talking to them, and so what's your wish list? What do you think needs to be done to make things better? Are there things that you think we need to be looking at, or just our interaction with the system in a better way? But what are some of the things that you hope to see as this progresses over time?
In my heart of hearts, that they continue this program now that it's expanded to beyond combat into transitioning veterans. I really hope that this value added is seen by the community at large and Congress and everyone else out there that needs to see it, because the goal is really to get people in and get them the help and care they need. I feel like sometimes those folks that I run into in the community that haven't been in to see us yet have been suffering needlessly when we can provide care and assistance to them. And I've had recently our program has moved locations, and during that time, I've had several veterans who have been working with the post 9/11 military to VA program come in and tell me stories about how once they found out about the VA and once they utilized the services, how to quote one of them, it made me who I am. Another veteran told me it saved my life. Um, so I want people to realize how important the VA is, and those posters and ads that you hear about the unseen wounds of war and of military, it's real. It's a thing. It needs to be addressed, and we need to support the folks that need to access this care, and we need to make it available and keep it available for them.
Service members are also homeless, and we still have a problem with that, and veteran suicide and all of that. So how does that play a role in this system?
So that's another great hope, wish, or dream of mine that I hope keeps getting funded and recognized and seen in the community. We have a very robust homeless program. We have an expanding suicide prevention team at Jesse Brown and within the VA in general. Um, but it's those folks that probably need us the most and maybe aren't willing to ask that question just yet. So they need the most support so that they can come in and actually take advantages of those services that we provide. And we need to be able to continue to provide those services. So we need to count on that staffing, those resources, and the funds that'll be available for those programs to keep going, and so that we can help all of those folks that reach out through the suicide prevention hotline number. We can help the folks that someone else calls us about because they're concerned about them, folks that self-identify as being at risk, the homeless folks that have truly served our country and deserve the best care we can give them. We need to be able to provide that for them. And we have folks on those teams that truly care and are really doing their best to reach out to everyone and make that happen.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, because we're running low on time, of course. There's always never enough time to talk about things like this. Um, and give me your pitch. I'm a veteran. Why should I contact the service? How can I contact the service? How can I get engaged with the services? Of the post 9/11 military to VA program. And what should I be looking for or thinking about when I enter a VA hospital or a healthcare facility?
So I would love for you to remember that the people around you are veterans as well. They had to take that first step too. Please continue to take that step. And if you run into any problems or hassles, ask for the military to VA program. We are there to help and support you. At Jesse Brown, we're able to, if you walk in, we will see you. If you would like to schedule an appointment because that works better, we will do that. You can call 312-569-5900. That's 312-569-5900. And that's our general line. And you'll be able to set an appointment or ask a question.
Okay, very good. I really have to applaud you and the services that you're giving. And I want everyone to stay tuned. We have some really great shows coming up in addition to this. But thank you, Valerie, Creedon, for the services you're giving to our families and our veterans. Gives us another ray of hope in life. But stay with us, and we're going to be right back after this commercial interruption.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG.
Hello and welcome to Battle Proven Leadership. My name is Jennifer-Ruth Green. I believe leadership can be taught, so I teach it. It's an honor today to be here with America's Heroes Group. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you can see behind me is a blank wall. And the reason there's a blank wall is because I am in the military. I currently serve as a lieutenant colonel in the in the Air National Guard, and I'm here TDY. I'm on temporary duty, and so just finished up a set of orders here where I was working on building the next generation of leaders here at the United States Air Force Academy. And so since I've been here for the last month or so, we've had the opportunity to develop brand new high school graduates into ready, prepared, trained airmen ready to learn and prepare for the next opportunities in their lives. So it's been a long summer, but it's been a good summer. And leadership is something that I value inherently. And I'd love to tell you today a little bit about who I am, about the preview for what this show is going to be, and share with you some insights so you can get to know me. Thank you so much for being interested in learning a little bit more about leadership. It's a passion of mine. And the reason it's a passion of mine is because I've spent the last 24 years trying to understand how to be more impactful in this space. My journey started as a third-generation combat veteran. My grandfather on both my mother's side and my father's side served in the military, and my father served in the military. My grandfathers, one of them served in the Korean War, in the Vietnam War, as well as World War II. My maternal grandfather served in World War II. My father served in Vietnam. And so we had a strong military heritage in our family. And when it was time to figure out what I wanted to do with my future, I knew that I wanted to use languages, travel the world. So that's exactly what I did. When I was 18 years old, I too came to the United States Air Force Academy. And while I was there, had the opportunity to study international relations, minored in Japanese, and knew that I wanted to, again, use languages, travel the world, and serve. And so after graduating, I had the opportunity to start flying. I had the opportunity to deploy as a special agent to Baghdad, Iraq, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. And through all of those elements, I realized how important leadership is. So being willing to go and serve was something that came quite natural. However, going into combat was where I really recognized that I had a clear responsibility. And I knew that it was my job to return the people that were at my command in the same condition or better. So I was a mission commander in Baghdad, and that meant that we would go outside of our forward operating base, and our training was to vet and recruit spies. And so while we were there serving and doing our job, we experienced multiple attacks, at least 5 attacks where I knew that God saved my life and the lives of those people around me. And so coming back from that, I realized, wow, a couple things. First of all, my word matters. What I say matters, what I believe matters, what I do matters, and how I conduct myself is incredibly important to ensuring the lives of the people that are under my leadership. And so the gravity of leadership really hit me during that time. Well, after I came back from Iraq, I had the opportunity to serve in various roles in the military, one of which was as a commander of a cyber unit. Essentially on the civilian side, I was a chief information officer. But essentially on the military side, my task was to make sure that I organized, trained, and equipped the team that I was assigned to for war. And so again, realized the gravity of my task, but ultimately I realized the realities of what it was going to take in order to be successful. So I couldn't just merely give orders. I couldn't just send people to combat. I couldn't just know a little bit about what I was doing. I had to make decisions for the lives of the people that I served alongside with a clear understanding of who they are and what they need from me. If I wanted to optimize the responsibilities that they had, and I was willing to risk their lives, then I had to know who they were. I had to know what the mission was, and I had to be willing to take the risk. And those were things that I had to come to understand very quickly because of the nature and dynamic of our responsibilities. And so serving in that command role gave me great clarity, but also great responsibility. And so I learned a lot from that tour, as well as the tour in Baghdad. And then finally, in 2022, I had the opportunity to contend for a congressional seat. And so while running to help govern and build our nation's legislative plans, I recognized, again, more gravity of what leadership looks like, clearer understanding that leadership is more than just how I conduct myself. It's more than just how I present myself, but it is really, do I have the heart set and the mindset to truly lead? I couldn't just allow myself to be a good example. I couldn't allow myself to be knowledgeable about my people and the task at hand, but I really had to ensure that I was focused on the big picture and trying to contend or process the bigger picture from the legislative branch. I learned a lot about myself as well. And so those were 3 clear areas where I said, wow, I need to help myself understand all of these in totality. But then I realized that it would be an honor to be able to help my colleagues and those who I value who want to lead as well with some of the things that I've learned. And so that's when I started Battle Proven Leadership. And I'll be transparent with you 100%. The reason I started Battle Proven Leadership was because I had learned these lessons, but there was a very dark time in my life where I knew that leadership began and ended with me. So while I was running for Congress, my political opponents illegally took my records. And when they took my records, they discovered that in Baghdad, I was a victim of sexual assault. It was a very difficult time for me personally, but it was something that I decided I was going to leave in the background of my mind. And it was going to be something that had happened in the past. However, when my opponents took my records, they decided that they were going to use them for their benefit. So they gave these records to the press, and the press decided to make national news of them. And it was quite discouraging, very difficult, quite emotional, and something that I never expected to have to deal with. And to be honest, it rocked my world. It rocked my world in multiple ways, mainly because I thought this was behind me. And I thought, if I'm just trying to serve, why is there a time and a place where people believe that they can actively use this as a tool against me? I did nothing wrong. And so as difficult as it was impacting my everyday, from my ability or desire to get up, to focus on the future, to have hope about what could be next. And so at the end of the day, I was really struggling. And as a believer in Christ, I realized that Christ does not provide hopeless situations. Christ is hope. Christ is the living water. Christ is the living bread. And so I thought about it and I said, I can sit here and I can be bitter, or I can be better. And I decided I wasn't going to sit, soak, and sour for the rest of my life. I was going to create a difference. And so that difference led me to start thinking. I said, hey, what can I do? How can I refocus my energies? And I realized that the leadership failures that I had seen, specifically the military releasing my records, the person who was trying to take them realizing that they had something they shouldn't have, the political opposition realizing that they had something and shouldn't release it because I didn't give them any clear indication to identify me as a victim or survivor of sexual assault. And all of these people had failed to lead. If they simply would have said, no, we're not going to do this, then we would have never been in this situation at all. And so for me, I thought very clearly, failures of leadership should be rectified. And that made me process, who were the best leaders in my life and why were they that way? And I came to this realization that oftentimes we value leaders because of what they do instead of who they are. And I realized the character traits of leaders that would lead me to crawl over broken glass for them. And I started compiling those into a list. And I realized there was a great connectivity and continuity in the list and in the people's conduct and character that I had listed out. I found that every one of those leaders had led me to a point where I trusted them, with my best interest. I trusted them with my life. I trusted them with my family. I trusted their desires, hopes, and goals for me. And that was deep. But then I thought, how did they build that trust? And I realized that trust was built because they conveyed value. And the ways they conveyed value were the reasons that I knew I could trust them. And that's what led me to write a book called People Don't Quit Their Jobs, They Quit Their Bosses. Become the leader people want to follow. So I wrote this book as a result of failed leadership principles that I saw, and ultimately it drew me to writing about how you can actively be more effective as a leader. How do you convey value? How do you build trust? Ultimately, how do you become the leader people want to follow? And so that's going to be the clearest intent for this show. I want to be able to help you be the leader people want to follow. But I realize that leadership is something that, it's hard to identify, but it's definitely something that you just know when you see. And because you know it when you see it, my attempt is to qualify the traits that make good leaders. And it's based on my experiences from combat to corporate life, from the boardroom to the battlefield. And I want to take you along these personal journeys, these personal stories where I've grown, these personal stories where I've failed, these personal stories where I've had great successes. And I want you to understand how not to make my failures your failures. I want you to be able to capitalize on the successes that I've had the opportunity to have. one of the key things for me as a principled leader is that I want to make sure that there is a road coming behind me as I blaze the trail. So there's no point in blazing a trail if the trail doesn't become a road. Very important thought to me. To me, it means that I can push forward. I can help people to become better leaders. I can provide insight. I can train. I can write books. I can conduct seminars. I can do, private sessions. I can do all of these things. But at the end of the day, if it's just information and I don't provide practical ways or clear training for people to be able to come alongside me or come behind me to be able to grow and be bigger and have bigger influences or more training or more opportunity to influence than I have, then I don't believe that what I'm doing is worth it. So that is my invitation to you during this opportunity that we have together on this Battle Proven Leadership podcast with America's Heroes Group. My invitation to you is come alongside me, learn with me, share your mistakes with me, ask your questions. And I can tell you, I'm not always going to have the answer, but I will hopefully have the opportunity to share some principles so that we can connect together over some of the things that may help you and me be better at being the leader people want to follow. Throughout the course of our journey together, it's my desire to connect with leaders whom I value. I've had the opportunity to connect with a lot of military leaders and a lot of political leaders, but I'm incredibly interested in providing their insights to you. And I want to focus on 3 simple questions: leadership do, leadership don't, and best advice for new and rising leaders. Why do I ask these 3 questions? Leadership do. There are some proactive ways for us to be competent and capable of furthering the goals of access and influence. All we do, every opportunity we have, is fight for access and influence. When you have the opportunity to become a mid-level manager from an individual contributor, you have more access to more information, to more people, to different rooms, but then you also have influence. Influence is when people have the opportunity to hear what you say, but also are willing to act on it. So if you just have influence and you have no access, you may have a lot of opportunities to share, and some people may get behind you and value your ideas, but it's not going to create any long-term or real change. It's just going to create some good sentiment and people who want to get on board with what you want to do. However, if you have access and no influence, then you have the opportunity to sit in a room and you hear the ideas, but nobody's going to take your ideas into consideration and nothing will effectively change. And so when you marry those 2 concepts together, access and influence, you provide an opportunity to create real change. And so I want to help level up the people that truly want to lead. I have this theory where from 0 to 90%, to get to this point where you're doing a good job is relatively easy. You show up on time, you know your work, you know what you're supposed to do, and you do it. And you'll get a good review, you'll get a good paycheck, you may get opportunities to grow and succeed, but at the end of the day, you're going to plateau at that 90% and you're going to do a good job. But the difference between good and great takes exponentially more work. For example, right now we're in the season of the 2024 in Paris. And while we're watching them, we see that in gymnastics, the difference between greatness and good, i.e. somebody that is sitting at the top of a medal stand and somebody who is merely, who is 4th place and the 4th best athlete in the world, but doesn't get recognized for it, is hundredths of a point. If we look at swimming and we see the difference between somebody who is capable of getting the gold medal and somebody who gets the silver medal, is thousandths of a second. It's touch. That's it. And somebody is great, and maybe the 4th place person is good. And what is the difference between good and great? I would argue that the difference is in preparation time. And I'll take a quick minute to explain my thought process on this. I play basketball. I played basketball growing up. I had the opportunity to contend and play basketball at the Air Force Academy's prep school. And so the United States Air Force Academy, period, is a D1 program, a Division I program where you have the highest athletes playing at that level in preparation for future opportunities for pro sports. I was never at the level of a pro sport athlete. I liked basketball. And I found that I wanted to be better at basketball, and I thought the way to get better is to play more. And so there are people that want to play. They'll play pickup games, and they'll play a lot. They'll play on Saturdays. They'll play after work. They'll go to the gym and get in a game with their friends or things like that. But those people become good basketball players. But if you've ever heard any stories about Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, and you watch how they've become great, it is in the preparation time. It is not in the performance time or the playing time. It is in their preparation time. And I've heard stories of basketball players who have said on days off, there would be Kobe Bryant at the gym prior to practice, 5:30 in the morning, shooting free throws, getting his shot right, getting his rhythm down. And he would do that before the game. And then after the game, he would stay for an hour and play a little bit more, practice a little bit more. And he would work harder and harder because the time that you practice doing something right is the clearest and purest investment into your progress. The difference between good and great is not how much you play and actually do the task. It's how much you prepare. And so when we look at Simone Biles or we look at Katie Ledecky, I promise Katie Ledecky doesn't go out and swim the 1,500 meter every single day the fastest she can. She's going to spend hours kicking in the pool. She's going to spend hours working on her breathing. She's going to spend hours minimizing the time it takes for her to launch herself off of the platform. Simone Biles doesn't do the 1.5-minute routine that it takes for her to do a floor routine. She's going to spend time practicing the mental practice of going through the routine in her mind. She's going to practice making sure that her leaps and her jumps and her choreography, all of the individual elements are prepared for. And so when we talk about leadership, if you want to go from good to great, if you want to go from somebody who has a management position to somebody who truly wants to lead with character, who wants to lead at a place where people will follow you, you have to practice. And what does practice look like? Practice can look like absorbing material and saying, you know what? This is a good principle. I want to have clear principles that I use when I make decisions. I want to learn how to better run a meeting. So I'm going to read about it and then I'm going to actually try it out. And so all of this information is not intended to be stagnant, but it's intended to be used. There's a show that I like to watch. And while I was, watching this show, I was watching the people in the show film a show. And so in the TV show, while they were preparing for the filming to start, there's a point where the producer says, roll sound, roll camera, action. And so rolling the sound means audio is on. And then they have this point where they say action, meaning something is audibly happening, and then we're doing something about it. And I feel like that's exactly what this situation is. Sometimes we get information fat and application skinny. And we listen to a podcast like this, and maybe I have some interesting combat stories, or maybe I have some clear principles that will help and aid you in your path. And that's roll sound. And that's roll camera. And you can see me and you can hear me. But there's a point where you have to have the verb, or you have to have this point where you say action, and you have to do something with it. So I can guarantee you that I will do my part. I will roll sound, I will roll camera, but in order for you to take this information and be incredibly impactful, there has to be a point where you prepare. And I'm committed to do my part, and my ask is that you would be committed to do your part of taking action. So my name is Jennifer-Ruth Green. I am the founder and CEO of Battle Proven Leadership. Quick plug for where you can find us. We're at battleprovenleadership.com. I believe leadership can be taught, so I teach it. I want to provide clear and practical training for people who want to go from good to great in their leadership journeys. I'm going to provide clear principles. I'm going to focus on new leaders, our independent contributors, individual contributors, to new and rising leaders, people who are mid-level managers, or people who desire to have an entry-level opportunity and know what they can do with it. I want you to walk in and say, day one, these are some principles that I can live up to because it's very clearly my to do better, but what do I need to do? So what, now what? I'm here, I have a role, what do I do? And then I want to talk to established leaders. We're going to target people who have clear roles in the company, who have been serving for a while, whether you're C-suite, mid-level managers, or senior level managers. Our goal is to help you transition that place from good to great. And so overall, my desire is to serve. And if we can be a help to you, I promise you we will do our part to give you the lights, the camera, the sound, and it's just your responsibility to give action. Again, my name is Jennifer-Ruth Green. We're at Battle Proven Leadership, and you can find us at battleprovenleadership.com. You can find a copy of our book, People Don't Quit Their Jobs, They Quit Their Bosses. Become the leader people want to follow. If you're on our website, you can find us there, and that's where your path to leadership excellence can start. Some of the topics we have, we talk a little bit about differentiating leaders from managers, how to eliminate distractions, providing expectation management. How do you clearly define with the people that work for you what you want from them? We also talk about shaping the workplace culture. You're in charge. How do you determine what you want the culture to look like? I want to help you understand how to develop other leaders, because it's important that you recognize if something happens to you, how does the team continue? Do they have a clear vision? Do they have a clear mission? Do they have clear goals? Are you actively working towards those? Also, and most importantly, I want you to think about confronting issues without being confrontational. I want you to understand very clearly what it's going to take when someone doesn't meet your expectations. When you have the responsibility to spend 90% of your time on 10% of the people who fail to meet your expectations, how do you deal with that? That's what we're going to talk about. Thank you so much for joining us. We're here at America's Heroes Group. I'm Jennifer-Ruth Green, and we're here with Battle Proven Leadership. See you next time.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Testing. Okay.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Am I on? Hello. Oh, I'm live. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're located. My name is Ernesto Borges, and I'm an attorney. I happen to be one of the original panelists on America's Heroes Group. I've been an attorney for some 39 years. I have a law firm called Bill Busters. We advertise under that name of Bill Busters. Actually, the law firm is Borges and Wu. I being Ernesto Borges, my partner being Zhao Ming Wu. And we've been in business for quite a long time. I've been practicing law for about 39 years. Actually, it will be 40 years this upcoming May. And we do a lot of different types of cases. We handle different areas of the law. We handle a lot of bankruptcy, though, and that's why we use the name Bill Busters when we're advertising. And after COVID, a lot of people were suffering. There were a lot of people suffering prior to COVID, but after COVID, people weren't working. People weren't making any money. Inflation is high. Groceries are higher. Gasoline is higher. There's a lot of expenses that people have that we've always had, but it seems like as if they're a little bit higher than they used to be. A lot of people end up having to file bankruptcy. So I've always been into helping people from my years in the Army. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I was a combat veteran in Vietnam. Helped a lot of people over there, recipient of Purple Heart, 2 Brown Stars. And I was always putting my life out a lot to help people. And now I'm helping people in a different way with the bankruptcy. So let me tell you a little bit about bankruptcy in case you're having some financial woes right now. Before I get into the bankruptcy, I want to say that we do handle other areas of law. We do a lot of foreclosure defense, trying to help people to save their homes. We handle medical malpractice cases, personal injury cases, criminal law. I can refer you to someone. I used to practice criminal law, but I don't anymore. But a breach of contract, somebody suing you. And let's say sometimes you don't want to file bankruptcy, but you just want to argue your case and have your day in court. So we can also do that for you. So we've got 4 offices in Chicago. We've got one downtown in the Loop. Also, they're all in the Chicagoland area. We have one in Schaumburg, Riverside, on the south side of Chicago, to 107th and Western. So we make it convenient for you. And sometimes you just might want to meet us on online like we are now. And so we do Zoom meetings with people who might not want to come out. They can send a lot of their paperwork into our office, various means. If you can scan it and send it to us, we have portals that you can enter your information, even see how your case is going, progressing, and so forth. So we're kind of moving into the 21st century with a lot of the technology that we didn't have before. Lawyers nowadays, file all their cases online. I go to court a lot, but I go to court, Zoom court. I throw on a shirt and a tie, and sometimes the judges don't even have, they throw a robe over their pajamas and they're holding court at home. So things are changing. We're trying to move along with today's technology. But we still have these debts. So we were one of the largest bankruptcy firms. Things changed a little bit. We used to be, I was the largest minority-owned bankruptcy firm in the country, and then got a few more competitors, but we're still one of the top firms, and we are certified by the bankruptcy certifying agencies and so forth. So you're really getting some very experienced attorneys. We have 5, 6 attorneys working for us, and you can come visit us at any time. Our phone number is 312-853-0200, 312-853-0200. And I'll give you that number again at the end of the show. We're going to be here for another 20 minutes or so, and I'll give that to you. So get a pen and paper, write it down. Bill Busters. That's the easiest way to contact us. BillBusters.com. That's our website, BillBusters.com. Just like it sounds, Bill, B-I-L-L, Busters, BUSTERS.com. I came up with that when they were doing Ghostbusters, and I said, I'd love to come up with something kind of catchy. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about Chapter 7 bankruptcy. They've got Chapter 7, Chapter 13, Chapter 11. 3 types of bankruptcies that people normally employ. Typically, Chapter 7 is the one that people think about. And excuse me for sweating. It's a little warm where I am right now. But Chapter 7 is the one that people think about to just wipe out your debt, just wipe everything out so that you don't have to pay any of these debts, especially credit card debts, because these people these companies that own these credit cards, these banks and so forth, they charge you. See, I'm old enough that I can remember when interest rates were like 8%. That was it, 8% per annum. Then they went up to 12, then 16. Now they charge you 29, 30. Some are even higher than that. And it's very difficult to pay these debts when you have interest rates like this. You borrow a little bit of money and then you all of a sudden it's like doubled, tripled, especially with these payday loans and companies like that. Some states have outlawed payday loans. But let's say you have some debt. You've got, say, $20,000, $30,000 of, let's say, credit card debt. And you're paying 30, 35%, interest every year. And that ends up being quite a bit. You don't realize just how much. And a lot of these credit card companies want you to pay the least amount, the smallest amount, because they want to make their money on the interest. They don't want you to pay it off. They don't want you to make a big, downstroke when you get your bill. They put the minimum amount, and they want you to pay the minimum so that they can keep you on the hook year after year after year. And guess what? You haven't even lowered the principal. All you've done is pay interest, and you still owe the principal. And then they'll sue you for it. So, you can come to us. Sometimes we'll try to work it out. If bankruptcy isn't the right thing for you, we'll try to work out a payment plan for you so that you can just make payments on a monthly basis until you pay it off. Sometimes we can work that out so that you don't even have to pay any interest. We can enter into agreed orders with your creditor at times, or we just call them and say, "Look, we represent you, and we don't want to go to a debt consolidation company. We'd rather work through a lawyer or a law firm." Because a lot of these debt consolidation companies, you just don't want to deal with. You think you're getting a good deal, but you're not, and because they're taking money off the top. And let's say sometimes you have 10 creditors. What they'll do is pay one creditor till that creditor is paid off, but the other 9 are still coming after you. Or maybe they're not, but the interest is still accruing. And then they don't even have to agree to work with that debt consolidation company. They can say, "Look, we're going to sue the person. We're not going to be part of this or be the number 10th to get paid or the 7th to get paid." So you can come to us. We can file what's called a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And that's what's called a liquidation bankruptcy. That's the one that wipes the debt out. And it wipes out most types of debts. It can wipe out credit cards. It can wipe out a car loan. Let's say you just can't afford the car anymore. So you turn the car in. Now, if you don't pay them, and let's say you turn it in voluntarily, it's still a repo. It is going to show up on your credit as a repo. And let's say you just can't afford the car. You want to wipe that debt out. You want to wipe out $30,000 worth of credit card debt. Even taxes, if they're old IRS debt, we can wipe those out too. The more recent ones you're going to get stuck with. Student loans, people are always asking me about student loans. Sometimes you can wipe out student loans if you can show that it is, it's just not feasible. You just can't make it. I had a lady once, she worked in a little restaurant. She lived in a trailer with her mom and her two kids who were handicapped. And so she tried to go to, community school, better herself. She couldn't make it. She had to take care of the kids, take care of her mama, still work as a waitress in a little greasy spoon. So I was able to convince the court to give her a discharge and wipe out her student loan. So sometimes, depending upon what your circumstances are, we can even wipe out your student loan. So what they do, though, what happens is that when you file a bankruptcy, it creates what's called a bankruptcy estate. And there's someone who's in charge in that estate, and that person is called a trustee. And what they do, they review all of your finances, your financial well-being, whether you have any money, whether you have a job, whether you have any assets. It's the trustee's job is to liquidate your assets. And if you have any, then use that money to pay off your debt. Let's say you got $100,000 worth of debt, and you got a diamond ring that's worth $5,000. Well, they might take your diamond ring from you and sell it, use the $5,000, give everybody a few bucks. That's liquidating. They liquidate. So when you think of liquidation, sometimes you go and you see these stores, liquidation sale, meaning they're just going to sell everything. So what the trustee does is he looks at your property, your assets, if you have any, and he would sell them, except certain things are protected to a certain degree. You're allowed to keep a little money, keep a couple of grand. But if you had $50,000 in the bank, he's going to take all of that. So you got to be careful what attorney you go to, because sometimes people file a bankruptcy having an asset. They might have a house with equity in it. You got a house, you could end up losing your house. So that's why you always need to come to an experienced bankruptcy attorney so he can make an assessment of how much you owe, how much you make, and what your assets are. And so let's say that you have no assets. I'm broke. I got nothing. I don't have a job. I don't have any money. I don't have any assets. I don't have a house. I don't have a car. I don't have any diamonds. Then that trustee will have a meeting. He'll ask you, it looks like you don't have anything here. And so he'll write his report and say, no assets. This is a no asset case. And he'll let the judge know there are no assets. There's nothing. This person doesn't have anything. So then the judge will enter an order discharging all of your debt, meaning wiping it out, discharging it. That's what you want to hear, discharge, not dismiss, discharge. And so your case would be discharged, meaning your debts are discharged or wiped out, unless it's a debt that can't be wiped out, like a student loan. Typically, a student loan is not dischargeable. Recent IRS debts, child support. You might be, maybe you committed a criminal act or something. Judge says, you got to give restitution to that person. You threw paint on their car and in your meanness. And so the guy had to have his car painted again. You might have to pay for that. So it would be like a criminal act. It's not an intentional tort or criminal act. Those things are not dischargeable in most instances. But other than that, you can wipe all these things out with a Chapter 7 and just be debt-free. And once we file your case, what's called an automatic stay goes into effect, so they can't call you anymore. Because some of these creditors will call you day and night, Sundays, after 9 o'clock at night, you're sleeping, wake you up in the morning, and just hassle you all day long. Once you file a bankruptcy, boom, stops. They're not allowed to call you anymore. Never. They can't call you. So it's this automatic stay, it's called, and it's just wonderful. It's protection, immediate protection. They can't garnish your wages. They can't do anything. Okay. They can go to a meeting. You're going to have one meeting. You meet with the trustee, and a creditor can come to that meeting if they want to. Typically, they don't. If you have a car, they might come to the meeting and say, look, you want to keep the car, or do you want to wipe out the debt? Sometimes people want to keep their cars, and you work out an arrangement with them. Or you want to keep your house, work out an arrangement. Assuming you don't have a lot of equity in your home. And a lot of people don't have equity. Some people are underwater with their homes. So we've done 100,000 bankruptcies, over 100,000, my firm, in the last 35 years, which maybe isn't a lot when you think about it, because I've been in business for a long time. Now, we have what's all called a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. That's a little different. Now, that one is a reorganization where you're trying to reorganize your debt so that, let's say, some people are in foreclosure. And let's say it was COVID and they got laid off. They couldn't make their payments on their home. They're in foreclosure. They're about to lose their home. They're $20,000 behind in their payments, their mortgage payments. So the mortgage company goes to court, files a foreclosure action. And if you can't pay them, then they're permitted to foreclose and take your home. Well, you can come to me. File a Chapter 13, which will allow you to pay that $20,000 over the next 60 months or 5 years. So you can pay it back through the trustee. You'll send the money to the trustee once a month. He will pay the mortgage company for you and say, look, you can't kick them out. You can't proceed with your foreclosure action. Your court action is over. Okay. And you got to that creditor has to get paid through the trustee, and you pay the $20,000 back. You also have to stay current with your ongoing mortgage, but it saves a lot of homes. I've saved a lot of homes. Sometimes there'll be a sale and the house is up for sale, and I file a bankruptcy the day before the sale. Stop the sale. That's how powerful a bankruptcy can be. So we can do that, or you fall behind in your car payments and they're trying to repo the car. I had a lady once, and she came to my office. She was out in the outside office, exterior office, and she was crying. I said, what's wrong, ma'am? She said, I'm Attorney Borges, I'm so upset. I said, what's wrong? She said, some guys came to my house last night. They were banging on my door, on my garage. They were trying to get in to get my car. I'm in foreclosure. They're garnishing my wages. And my son is down in Morehouse. He's trying to start his second year at college, but I owe them some money and they won't let him register. So I said, well, come on into my office. So you know what I did? I spent the next 2 hours with her. I prepared all of her documents for her. We were able to get the mortgage company, get in touch with the mortgage company, let them know what we're doing, find out how much she owed, got in touch with the car finance company, got in touch, called down to Morehouse, talked to the registrar down there to find out how much she owed from the previous year so he could register for the upcoming year. And every problem that she had, the garnishment, contacted her payroll department. We filed a bankruptcy, sent the automatic stay. Remember, I was talking about that automatic stay, sent that to those creditors. They let her son register in school. He was sitting there in the bursar's office, registrar's office. They allowed him to register. They stopped the foreclosure action. Her car was protected. And it was just a beautiful thing. And so we were able to reorganize her debt, give her protection, and give her time to pay, the debts that she had. So we do that. And then sometimes you don't even have to pay the full amount back. Like, let's say she had credit cards. Now, those are called unsecured creditors. They're not like a house or a car. Those are things that people can take back. The creditor can repossess the car, can foreclose on the house. But a credit card that maybe you went to Europe on it. Maybe you went to a nice restaurant, or you bought some clothes, or whatever you did with it. Well, they can't take that back. They can't take the trip back. They can't take the dinner that you had back, or the clothes that you bought, or the bed that you bought with the credit card. So those are called unsecured creditors. There's nothing, they don't have any security. They can't take back what you spent the money on. So you don't have to treat them as nicely. You can give them sometimes as little as 8% of what you owe them and wipe out 92%. That's what you can do in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. And the trustee is not going to try to take your house or take your car. They don't liquidate. They just allow you to pay your debt over a period of time. So that is a very useful bankruptcy for saving your home, your car, your kid. They might not let them register. That's a case that, kind of solved a lot of problems. The garnishment, all of that stopped. So bankruptcy is something that's very, very useful. Now, there's some people that have businesses. I have a lady right now, and she had a shop, a little restaurant selling fish and chicken and ribs and so forth. And unfortunately, business went bad, and they weren't selling as much. She owed money to the suppliers, the people who provided her with the meat or the equipment and all of that. If you have a restaurant or something, you got a lot of vendors out here, people that are supplying you with things to keep you in business. Well, some people have bad times. Let's say COVID. A lot of restaurants went out of business because of COVID. So what I can do is file a Chapter 11 for them. And what a Chapter 11 does is it allows you to pay those debts off over a period of time. Just like a 13, but 13s are only for individuals, for people. 13s, you can't file a 13 for a business is my point. Only people can file 13s, but a business can file a Chapter 11 to allow you to work out that debt, reorganize that debt, and stay in business so that you can continue operating. You can continue selling your food or what have you, whatever your business may be. And the Chapter will push those creditors that were hounding you, kind of put them to the side, keep them in abeyance so they can't close you down. Chapter 11's not Donald Trump filed many Chapter 11s. His casinos out there in Atlantic City, and people see where Trump filed bankruptcy. He filed bankruptcy. Well, normally he's filing a Chapter 11 bankruptcy so that he can keep the business, and then sometimes you'll convert that to a Chapter 7 and say, look, Trump's casino didn't make any money, so we tried the 11, didn't work. So now we're going to convert it to a Chapter 7 and just liquidate everything. Sell the roulette wheels, sell the tables, sell the dice, for those of you who shoot dice. And, those are things that you can do. So you have three kinds of bankruptcy that, depending on what your need is, come and see us at bankruptcies. At Bill Buster's, and I started to name the firm Bankruptcies United, but I didn't. But Bill Buster's, come and see us, and our number is 312-853-0200, 312-853-0200, or just go to billbusters.com, billbusters.com, and ask for me. I'm attorney Ernesto Borges, or you can ask for my partner, Xiaoming Wing, or one of the other attorneys. We have a bunch of attorneys, and they're all very well versed in bankruptcy, and we can help you. If you just want to do it over the internet or call us, we can do it that way. Anyway, thanks for joining me here. I'm attorney Ernesto Borges of Bill Busters, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Until then, enjoy your day, enjoy your week. Bye-bye.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Good evening to everyone. Just want to start out by saying welcome to the American Heroes Group YouTube channel, and want to specifically thank them for the invite tonight to have this conversation around health. You all bear with me for these next 25 or so minutes. I'm used to having plenty of conversations, just not maybe directly as we're having them and just me talking without a bit of feedback. So my name is Sadiq Colquitt. I am a resident of Chicago. I am the founder and director for the Plant-Based African Center for Nutrition. And I am happy to be with you this evening so that we can at least, I know for many people, it's not a start because there is a health conversation going on in some corner of America, in most major cities. And depending on where you are, your age, your background, and where you are currently in your life, it can either be a small part of the conversation or a large part of the conversation. I am a nutritionist, and I have been directly working with food and nutrition for the last 24 years. So give you a little background. I am actually, my health journey started at the age of 29. So I'll tell a little bit about myself just so you can know. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and I was also about 284 pounds. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor looked at me and she said, "Mr. Colquitt, you have a bit of high cholesterol and high blood pressure, and I'm just going to write this prescription for you, and you will have to potentially take these meds for the rest of your life." And I'm really grateful for the way she said that, because when she said for the rest of my life, it really jarred me in a way. And I left the doctor's office and I said, man, I don't think I want to do that. So I started looking into ways to actually decrease or mitigate my blood pressure through diet. And just to give you a reference, I grew up in a African American household on the south side of Chicago. Both of my parents were from the South, so I'm a first generation Chicagoan, meaning our tables were filled almost every day with home cooked meal. And at that point, it was mac and cheese, pot roast. If it was a holiday, it was ribs, ham. There were greens, green beans, and I could just go on and on and on. And matter of fact, as a child, macaroni and cheese was one of my favorite dishes, actually until this day. So that's the way I was born and raised. I was not acquainted with what it meant to actually have a diet that did not have animal products or meat. So when I began my research, it was really interesting for me to come across vegetarianism or veganism. And I had a friend take me to a vegan restaurant on the South Side. And I said, let me give it a try. And I began changing my diet at 29. And after about 6 months, I had to return to the doctor with a follow-up appointment. And upon that return, my blood pressure had decreased and had gone all the way back to the level it was when I was 18, because I had begun taking certain products and certain things out of my diet. I was moving toward a plant-based diet. And so in the next couple of months, I fully made the transition. And so I've been in the plant-based food world since I was 29. I turned 53, my birthday, telling my age. But at 53, I have never been diagnosed with a chronic illness. I've never taken a prescription medication. And all of my levels remain either in range or below what the average American range is. I say that to say what I do for a living is not merely based upon what I have done with others, but what I have done with myself first, and then how that has grown over the years. So about 10 years ago, I founded the Plant-Based African Center for Nutrition. Went back to school to become a certified nutritionist. I'm also a certified urban farmer because my personal theory was we need to see nutrition and health from the plant to the plate. So that being said, what we do is we help people mitigate lifestyle diseases. And so lifestyle diseases are diseases like heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. As a matter of fact, these diseases affect over 50% of America. So you have, when you go, you can Google and research, and some start at 61 to 62% and can go as high as 70% of statistics that show that Americans, for the majority, right, 60 to 70%, are on at least one prescription medication. And you can go through, you can think about family, you can think about friends, and we know that these stats are actually true. They especially ring true in the African American community. And so at the Plant-Based African Center for Nutrition, we are dedicated to disease mitigation, right, where we either help you stop, arrest, or mitigate your proximity to disease. So we have worked with people over the years, over the past decade or more, in reducing their high blood pressure or totally getting them off medication. We have helped walk people back 100% from type 2 diabetes, because there's more than one type. We have helped people drop their cholesterol back into normal levels after battling it for more than 20 years. We've helped people who are straight out of open heart surgery and working to reduce their hypertension and put their body in a healing mode. So that's what we're dedicated to. We also teach. We teach nutrition. We teach disease mitigation. And the number one thing that we work with individuals, organizations, and educational institutions to help people understand is that 90% of the disease we experience in America, in particular the Western world, is actually optional based on what you are putting in your mouth and what you consider to be food. Our latest conversation is framed around what food actually is. And so if you were born and raised in America, there are plenty of things that we call food that actually are not food. And so what we have over the last year and a half been traveling the country, starting in Chicago. We just left Washington, D.C. We've been to Cleveland, Atlanta, scheduled out to California, and just traveling different organizations 2 or 3 times here in Chicago, discussing and educating audiences on what food actually is, what food is biologically, what food is from a chemical and a biological perspective. There are a couple of, I want to back up for a second. There are a couple of quotes that I usually like to start the conversation with. And so one is from the White House Conference on Food, Nutrition, and Health. And here's what they had to say from the White House. No other area of the national health probably is as abused by deception and misinformation as nutrition. Many travesties cheat the public of enormous sums of money and of good health as well. Okay? So that's from the White House Conference on Food. Nutrition, they say that area is abused by deception and misinformation. And that's key. The reason it's key is because they state that one of the factors is deception, meaning that there is deliberate and intentional misleading information given to the American public. And so what we work to do is to sort through that information or that misinformation to help you make the best choice possible. And then one more quote. I love this quote because it comes from Dr. Michael Greger. And Dr. Greger is just a stalwart in the nutrition and health field. But he's also very, I would say, transparent, very honest. And so here's his quote. Most doctor visits are for lifestyle-based diseases, which means they are preventable diseases. As physicians, my colleagues and I were not trained to treat the root cause, but rather the consequences by giving a lifetime worth of medications to treat risk factors like high blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol. This approach has been compared to mopping up the floor around an overflowing sink instead of simply turning off the faucet. And so that's our goal when we talk to our audiences. Most of America is busy mopping up the water around an overflowing sink, diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, hypertension. And mopping up the floor is likened to taking these medications, getting half information, and simply not having enough information to make the choice to reach over and turn off the faucet. And so what we like to do is give baseline information that can help you make a different choice and understand where diabetes, for instance, and we'll talk a little bit about diabetes, where diabetes comes from, where it originates, so that you can make the choice to turn off the sink instead of mopping up around it with metformin. So I hope that makes a little sense to you. And let me say this before I dig into tonight. We'll talk a little bit about diabetes. I'll start there, and then we'll go to the number one killer of all Americans, and especially in the African American community, which is heart disease. And heart disease has many subcategories, right? There's disease of the arteries, stroke, heart attack. We talked about hypertension, aneurysms. It also can lead into Alzheimer's and brain disorders. But want to start with diabetes by saying what I'm going to say to you is not to convince you or tell you what you should eat. What we are merely presenting to you is the choice not to have or not to be engaged in the disease wheel, not to be engaged in the food, pharmaceutical, medical, industrial complex. That is the choice we are presenting. We are not telling you what to eat, what not to eat. We understand that people have different beliefs, but what we want to share from a scientific, biological, sound perspective is how these diseases occur and what food actually is or is not. So before I go into diabetes, let me take a few moments and share with you, if you have a pen, you have something to write with, this is worth writing down. I'm going to share with you what your body considers food. Again, I'm going to say what your body considers food. And you have to know that we live in the middle of intelligent design. So some will say God, some will say creator, some will acknowledge that there is a creative force in the universe, but we live in intelligent design. So for instance, you breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Well, the tree breathes in carbon dioxide and breathes out oxygen. It is a sustaining, system that allows both the tree and the human being to coexist, and we actually depend on one another. That is a super intelligent design. And so based on intelligent design, over 100 years of research, we have extrapolated what food is to the body. And here's what food is. Food is an organic plant or plant-like substance that contains these 5 things. It has to have carbohydrate or fat, has to have vitamins and minerals, has to have fiber, has to have protein, and it has to have water. If it is missing one of those 5 things, the body does not consider it food. So let me give you an example. If you're listening out there and you have your phone, the 4th thing I mentioned was fiber, right? So it's carbohydrates and fats, have to have vitamins and minerals, okay? You have to have protein, and you have to have fiber, and then water. But I want to talk about fiber. Why does food have to have fiber? If you were to Google right now the percentage of America that's fiber deficient, you would come up with an answer that would say 95 to 97% of America. 95 to 97, right? 95 to 97% of America, 325 million people, are all fiber deficient. Then if you went further and you Google the diseases, right, that stem from fiber deficiency, you'd find a list anywhere from 5 to 15. And in the middle of those top 5 to top 10, you would find heart disease, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, and the list goes on and on and on. Therefore, we can intelligently deduce that a food source in an intelligent design would have to have fiber. So this is the number one reason when we start talking about, and the definition that I'm giving you lives beyond titles, or lives beyond veganism. It lives beyond vegetarianism. It lives beyond these lifestyle labels that we give to each other. So for instance, chicken, right? Chicken, beef, fish, shrimp, and we could go on down the list. If it is an animal, it has no fiber. There is no fiber in the animal world, right? A fish has a skeleton, right? Cow has a skeleton, right? Chicken has this is how they keep their bodies together. The only place you find fiber is in the plant world, right? Plants, trees, your vines, the vines that your cucumbers grow on, your plants stand up when they grow in the soil. They do that through their fibrous content, and that fiber is necessary for proper gut health, for proper removal of waste from the body. There are so many functions, right, that fiber is integral, and it is an intricate part of proper cellular health for a human being. So let me get to this because I don't want to run out of time. I want to give you, I want to start at diabetes. All right. So food has to have 5 things. If it doesn't have those 5, it's not food. I want you to leave here with that. Food, as defined, has to have carbohydrates and fat, has to have vitamins and mineral, has to have protein, has to have fiber, and it has to have water. Has to have water in it. Okay. And all of the vegetables and fruit that you'll come in contact with, including a mushroom. A mushroom actually is not a plant. Okay. Mushroom is actually designated as a fungus, but it contains all 5. And that's why the definition lives outside of what we call plants, or the definition is based on what your body biologically considers food. So let's go to diabetes really quick before we run out of time. Diabetes is not caused by sugar. I'm gonna slow down and say that again. Diabetes is not caused by sugar, right? Diabetes is a disease of fat and oil, in particular, animal fats, and any type of oils. So let me explain what happens. You have a normal cell, you have insulin, which is a hormone and a receptor, and you'll have, when you eat, your body turns your meal into simple sugars, and it's the energy source for your cell. And they will line up like a school bus on the insulin, and they approach the cell, and the insulin communicates with the cell because it has to get the cell to open up and to accept the sugar. And so in proper communication, they would trigger an opening effect to the cell, and the sugar would march right into the cell, and the cell would have the energy source and happily ever after. What happens in a person who has type 2 diabetes is that your cell is no longer functioning properly because it is lipid toxic, meaning it's fat toxic. So the saturated fats, the trans fats, the things that we're eating, the catfish, the fried chicken, the French fries, the potato chips, those things that are deep fried, right? The oils, right? The animal fats, the cholesterol, they all fill up the cell. Once they fill up the cell, right, because the fat's spilling over, it's in the cell, you eat, the sugar lines up, right? It's on the insulin, but the insulin can't communicate with the cell because the cell is gummed up, right? Just like your lock freezes in the winter and you can't get the key in, it's the same thing with your cells. Okay. And so once your insulin cannot communicate with the cell, you are said to be insulin resistant. Okay. But the insulin resistance is caused, again, by the animal fats and oils that are gumming up your cells. So the sugar has to be let go of, can't go into the cell. So it's let go of in the bloodstream, and you are said to have high blood sugar. But high blood sugar is a result of, it is not the cause of, it is the result of the fat and the oil in your cells. So type 2 diabetes, how do you get rid of it? You stop eating the food that is putting the oils and the fats into your cells. You clean those cells out, and then your sugar will go into the cells, come out of the bloodstream, and we can let the bloodstream begin to heal. All right. So that's something that we can help you with at the Plant-Based African Center for Nutrition. You can reach out to us. I just want to share where to do that before I go on. We've got, I think, maybe another couple of minutes, but you can reach us at PBA Center for Nutrition, all one word, PBA Center for Nutrition.org. That is PBA Center for Nutrition, one word.org. So you can reach out to us. We can continue the conversation. We'd love to get more into heart disease, Alzheimer's, also high blood pressure, high cholesterol. There's so much that we can talk about, so much that we can learn, and remembering that it all stems from what the body considers to be food, or are we eating things that are food-like or food-ish or food adjacent, like cookies, cakes. I'll give you a great example, especially for those that consider themselves vegan. An Oreo cookie is vegan, but an Oreo cookie is not food. And because of the fats and oils that the Oreo cookie is constructed from, it will hamper your cellular functioning, and it will gum up those cells and eventually lead to insulin resistance. It's not the sugar, it's the fat. Okay, so I want you to know that. And likewise with heart disease, okay, it's a disease of a buildup of cholesterol. So I want to share this fact with you. Cholesterol is necessary for the body, and your liver makes all the cholesterol you will ever need. I'm going to say that again. Cholesterol is necessary, and your liver makes all the cholesterol you will ever need. The only way to get high cholesterol is that you are consuming something that you consider to be food that also produces cholesterol, like another mammal. So on top of your perfectly calibrated cholesterol level, if you consume an animal whose body also makes cholesterol, and over time that builds up, your body can't effectively get rid of it, you will have high cholesterol. But how do we reach in and turn off the faucet? Stop putting the extra cholesterol into our body. Go back to what the body considers to be food, right? We got to have carbohydrates and fats. We've got to have vitamins and minerals. We've got to have protein, fiber, and water. Go back to that, those 5 things, and you can begin to decrease your cholesterol level. You can clear out your arteries. You can also walk back from diabetes, and you can make a choice not to be a disease victim. Thank you for your time. Hopefully I'll see you again.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
Hello, how are you? Can you all hear me okay? My name's Desmond Waters, and I'm delighted to be here tonight with all you fine folks. I'm here to talk about Prime IV Hydration and Wellness. It is a national chain that a franchise that started a couple of years ago. It's been very, very positive with positive results. I'm Desmond Waters. I'm a pharmacist. I've spent most, if not all of my career in healthcare, hospital pharmacy, eventually moved up to a director of pharmacy, administrator of a small to mid-size hospital system in the Midwest. I've always had an interest in health and wellness, but really didn't take it that serious. So over the last several years, towards the end of me leaving the hospital setting, I became very interested in IV hydration, wellness, vitamins, minerals, NAD, peptides, hormone replacement therapy, and really just as a pharmacist, surprisingly, we don't know as much, or we're not taught as much about vitamins and minerals and amino acids. So we do have a extensive chemistry, biochemistry background that we are versed in that. It's just we're more participated in the synthetic, or the man-made drugs that we all know so well. So over the years, as a pharmacist, my role was always to, help people get them really off of medications. Believe it or not, most people think pharmacists are there to give medications, and yes, we are, and we're to do that to make people health and safe and effective, and minimize side effects. But as my career progressed, I really saw, I'd say a proliferation of medications and prescribing, and at times prescribing medications for other medications, side effects. And so it became really imperative that as a pharmacist, I really was looking for a health and wellness, getting people off of those therapies as safely and effectively as I can. And so that brought me to the more and more I discuss, the more and more I learned and looked into it, I realized, there is I would say an adjunct, and not so much an alternative, but an adjunct to, traditional medicine, which would be, your IV minerals, amino acids. And so Prime IV really interests me very much. My wife, who's a nurse, is an infection preventionist, a pediatric nurse, also worked at a very large health system, became interested in learning more about the health and wellness of IV hydration. So we embarked on Prime IV. We opened up our first Prime IV here last year. Actually, it's been a year to date. And honestly, we've just over the last year have really experienced just a positive growth with our clients, our neighbors, and our colleagues and friends and family. And so what we provide here is just that. We do IV hydration and NAD plus therapy, peptide therapy, and soon to embark on bioidentical hormone replacement. So kind of talk about the first piece of that is IV hydration. Most people kind of associate that with the hangover bag. Though we do have that, it's actually a very, very small piece of what we do. Typically, I would say our demographics really crosses many, many, many generations and many groups of people. Typically, it's your hardworking people who are working, stressed families, sometimes long hours at work. They're not getting their vitamins and minerals. And so, to really be diligent, you need to take your oral medications, vitamins and whatnot daily. And the reason you need to take vitamins orally daily is because of what they call a first pass metabolism. And so the body will actually metabolize what you take orally first. And at times it'll actually metabolize and be excreted through the body completely unchanged. So essentially you're really getting none of the benefit. And that's true to medicine as well as vitamins. And so much of what you take orally is actually excreted unchanged. And so you need to take it often, and you need to take a good amount of it. You also need to get a good brand. And so I myself was not very good at taking vitamins on a consistent basis. Taking the right vitamins, I found it was a bit pricey for me to do that, to find a good brand. And so I, again, jumped into Prime IV with that mindset that others may be struggling with it. And so what you do is you come into our facility. We have a doctor on staff. We have nurses who insert the IV. And so your first step would be to take and do a wellness intake form, a digital wellness form that you will fill out all of your medical history, medications, allergies, really kind of an extensive overview of your medical history and why you're here, and what are you looking to gain, and what are you hoping to get by it. And so then we sit down, you'll get a consultation from a qualified intake specialist who will sit with you and go through the drips. We have essentially 3 levels of drips. The first drip is what we call the primary drip. And that is it has a liter of fluid, and in it you can pick one of the additives. And one of them is we kind of label them as a different name that you can call what we would say the energy boost. And the energy boost is B12, and we carry methylated methylcobalamin B12. And so it's more natural, easier to absorb. And so you would get a bag of that. And then there's also the muscle recovery, which is an amino blend. It has 4 of our amino acids in it that is great for, muscle recovery, muscle build. And so that would be something like your arginine, citrulline, lysine, proline. Then there's an option to do a B6, which is kind of a heart healthy bag. And then also the option of an anti-inflammatory, which is your magnesium. And so that's great for sleep, anti-inflammatory, aches and pains and whatnot. So then that's what we call our primary drip, and it's pretty reasonably priced. There's also what we would say a tier 1 drip, and those drips would be up to about 4 additives. One thing I should also mention, it's the experience of coming into Prime is more than just getting an IV and sitting in a chair and leaving. We really, when we go through the consult, we really want to get to know your history. Why are you here? What are you looking to achieve? You will get benefit out of that one bag for sure. You'll feel great. You will, what I mentioned is you'll sit in a very nice custom massage chair. You get a heated eye mask. It places that offer oxygen. You can have that. We have our infused water, hot and cold towels. So we really try to make this we call it the 1 hour vacation. And we really want people to come in and really take an hour to themselves or more. And so it's more than just getting an IV, and it's really looking to give you a long-term solution. Now, we do have many folks who come in and are just looking for, they're very dehydrated. They might be outside, people who have a vacation. We've had construction workers, people who are like, they may need 1 or 2 bags of a solution to get themselves hydrated. But most of the folks that come in here are looking for kind of an alternative to their current regimen of getting vitamins and minerals through their food or their vitamins. So back to the IVs. So the what we call the tier 1 bags, there is about 8 of those. And so those are all custom made here on site at all Prime IVs. And so they're made under a USP 797 hood and done by a certified health professional. And so those would be examples of those would be something called the Jet Setter down to the Weekend Warrior. And the Weekend Warrior really is more of it would have your 4 items in it. So like a energy, your B12, your amino acid blend, your anti-inflammatory mag, and then also our B complex. And our B complexes at our Prime IVs have about 4 additives in that exact complex. One is the thiamine, riboflavin, nicotinamide, pyridoxine, and dexpanathol. And so that is actually, even though it's considered one additive, it has all of those B vitamins in there. And so there's things from the skinny drip to the after party, which is your traditional after party bag of IV hydration. And they're very themed based. And so they really direct our clients, and we direct them to what we would look at their intake. It's to see what they're looking, if they're really tired or achy or sore, or if people are looking for weight loss or whatnot, or energy. And so we kind of give them suggestions. And then there's our tier 2 drips. Those are our big drips. Those would all be in a liter of fluid. And it would be up to about 8 additives. And those would be what maybe many of us know to be the ones called the Myers cocktail. And the Myers cocktail has ascorbic acid, IV ascorbic acid. And as many of you know, ascorbic acid is a very, very strong fantastic antioxidant. And when you hear the word antioxidant, people kind of, it does get thrown around a lot. And I kind of put it as when your body breaks down, if it be age, fatigue, stress, work, sickness, illness, you get what we call this oxidative stress, or the body can have an influx or too much of what's called a free radical. And free radicals are good. They're actually used to carry things through the blood, but too much of it, and you can get into this oxidative stress. Well, vitamin C, ascorbic acid, is a great antioxidant to really help, recover those cells and help level the playing field, as I always like to say. And so it will have your vitamin C. It has calcium and magnesium. It also has the B6, the B12, the methylcobalamin, the B complex, and then a pretty nice large dose of dexpanthol. The dexpanthol is B5, and that's a great one for, it promotes your nervous system function, increases stress tolerance. It of course has many of these have dual mechanisms. So like B5 is also great for metabolism, carbohydrates, fats, and does promote heart health. B6 promotes heart health, also assists in sugar regulation. So many of these can have cross activity, but the focus of several of those are meant to be put in a drip that is specific to what we're trying to achieve. We then have drips that have a really large amount of antioxidants, and though it be a very large dose of vitamin C, and most of our vitamin C's are greater, between 4 to 6 grams of vitamin C. We have something called the immunity armor that also has vitamin C. It has magnesium, it has a double dose of B complex, it has a dose of B complex and a dose of zinc sulfate, B12, B6 as well. And it also has glutathione, and glutathione is just a fantastic antioxidant. And it is something that's naturally occurs in us. And as humans, we produce our own glutathione. It's a very strong antioxidant, as I mentioned. It's one that works very well it basically helps recycle vitamin C, and it works as well as the oxidative stress. It's found in every cell of the body, typically, around 40 years old, or sooner, you start to deplete in glutathione. And so they consider it a non-essential because it's man-made. It's made by the body, but as you age, you actually start to deplete in that. And so, and it is hard to get into foods. And so having glutathione supplemented, and you can do that through IVs that we have. So we have several formulations of glutathione you can get. It's in several of our bags. It's in the immunity. It's also in our glow, and can be added to any bag or any infusion. So sometimes people make it like a Myers and an immune and a glutathione. There's also something we have that's called the Beauty Boost, and it's 2 grams of glutathione. And so though it's great for that antioxidant effect, helping recycle the vitamin C and vitamin E's, it also helps with the aging process. And so many folks will take it for wrinkles and hair and skin, and kind of just great for the skin. And so many folks will take a dose of Beauty Boost on top of that. And so those are our primary drips. Those are what we call our go-to drips that you can take and add to it. And so the great thing about the Prime IV model is that when you come in, we really tailor around you. So we don't have, though these may be standard drips per se, but they are all customizable. And so some folks will say, I don't really need, zinc today. I'd like to get a double dose of B complex. And so because they're all made, we can accommodate those. And you find yourself when you come in, you get your IV specialist who will help you, infusion specialists who will, hey, Desmond, how are you feeling? How'd your last trip go? Anything we can do differently? And so we really customize to all the clients that way. Everyone who comes in will then finally will go through their infusion. They'll get their IV put in by a licensed practitioner, nurse, or paramedic, depending on your state. These folks are highly qualified. Typically, for instance, for us, we call it a stick rate. It's got to be above a 90%. In other words, you can't have a miss. People really come in here to relax, and so you don't want to become a pincushion. So most these prime IVs, all of them have a very, very high standard in how to stick a patient, as we say, stick. Because people aren't looking to get, they're not looking, looking to relax. And so because we have such a high quality of our professionals, we typically have folks who come in here who are traditionally very hard sticks. We actually have a lot of folks who would, when we came to the area here, we had a lot of folks who would traditionally go to an ER to get IV hydration. They may have some type of dehydration issue or vitamin deficiency, or maybe they're post-surgical or post-bariatric or POTS illness or something. They would typically go to the ER and they would spend 6 to 8 hours, get very limited hydration. Typically, it would just be saline. And some of them are very, very hard sticks. And so when we came present in the community, we found that folks really searched us out because we tend to get the best people to put the IVs in, and where you'll find that they can put IVs in very, very hard sticks. So I mention that because you really can't just work at a prime IV as a nurse unless you're a top tier IV insertion specialist, I guess is the best way to put it. So then after that, you get to spend your hour in the chair. It's a very relaxing time. You then finish up, come out, and we kind of go over your digital wellness. And so we create a plan for you, and we go over, based on your intake of what you filled out during our consult. We kind of go through like what we would suggest as a plan if you were to come back and continue on with therapy. So everyone gets their own digital plan. That digital plan can change, or that wellness plan can change. And then what we do is we kind of offer the drips and additives to the drips and things that we would suggest to maybe add additional or take away and replace. And we then have offerings to, so some folks, as cost is an issue, our drips can range from $90 to $160 for all of that's included. So we offer memberships, which is very popular. It's a great way to be consistent. It not only commits you, it commits us to you. And so we're very focused on, you're putting this is money that you're spending above and beyond anything else, and we take that very, very seriously. And so when you come in here, your experience is tailored to you. And so we want to make it a cost-effective, highly valued service. And so we offer memberships that can last typically a 6-month period. It's a great time for us to kind of evaluate, are we meeting your goals? Do we need to change anything? And during all of that, we offer other services. And so we also, here at this prime, we offer cryotherapy, which is your basically your nitrogen freeze tank. It's a great way. We have lots of folks who will get a drip, then they'll do their cryo. It's a 3-minute between -70 up to -240 degrees Fahrenheit. So cold, but it is so invigorating. It kind of basically jump starts the sympathetic system, your nerves, and it helps with the immunity boost. It helps with like fighting off illness as well as pains and aches. So it's a great way to kind of get the blood flowing after your infusion. And then we also offer peptides. We do weight loss peptides. We also offer some weight lifting like Sumorlin and whatnot that can help you build muscle mass for those folks who are working out. And we do offer all of the other services that we discussed. And so after that, we go over a plan, and we find a way in which we could offer some cost-effective memberships. And so other things so membership would really include all your IV hydration, your shots. And so we have shots from, all the way from vitamin D shots down to alpha lipoic acid, to L-arginine, to L-carnitine, to lipoline. And so we then tailor all of those individual shots to you and what you're looking to do. But we also offer, as I mentioned, what's called NAD therapy. And NAD is, again, a natural coenzyme that we all have, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide plus, which means it's a positive charged molecule. That's simply, it's a part of the Krebs cycle, and it helps, essentially as we age. Again, all of these things are all natural. All of our compounds are all naturally sourced, and they're used by us and by our bodies, and nothing is foreign per se. And so what happens again when you age, your NAD levels drop. We find that folks that have long-term SSRI, which is antidepressant usage, have a real low level of NAD plus, and sometimes it's a great way to help them get off of, or if they're just recently been off of SSRIs or antidepressants, it helps them kind of replenish and helps with the depression, also helps with energy, brain fog. Again, it has the same benefits as you would with anything else that you're depleted. And so that's something else we would offer is the NAD plus, as well as sometimes we have specific people who come in for, let's say, migraines, and so they have a history of migraines, and so we have a special drip for that. It's called the Myers migraine, and so it has a different level of magnesium in it to help offset that migraine relief. We also do actually pregnant mothers who have morning sickness that can't keep fluids down, or it's great for us to help with that. And also just your standard, we live in an area that has lots of allergies and allergy seasons, and so lots of our drips, several of our drips are very effective for allergies and allergy relief. And so, like I said, it really isn't you come in, pick a drip, go back. We really sit with you and go through your history and why you're here, because one drip may not be it may not be your drip. You eventually find what's your go-to drip, and maybe you start to customize that drip. You may add biotin in place of zinc, or whatnot that you're looking for, and it becomes your drip. And so that's what I find so rewarding. And it's just a great feeling to watch people progress through this as members come in. They get better each month. They feel better, they're invigorated, they're losing weight, they're more active. It's just a great way to be involved in it. And so as a healthcare professional like myself, I'll be honest, I didn't see that as much as in my other angles. Is most of the time they were very sick people who seem to stay sick. Here, people seem to get very healthy. They stay healthy. They want to get even more healthy. They then start to work out, they start to exercise, and we're there to help supplement that for them. And so, it's something that you could explore on your own and find a niche for you. I obviously could talk about this for a long time, and I appreciate you allowing me the time to speak with you. And if you have any questions, you can always reach primevhydration.com and find one in your area, or you can always reach out to Prime IV Hydration myself, and we'd be glad to direct or help you with any of your health and wellness needs. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time and allowing me to speak with you here today. And so with that, have a great night. I might have some time left. But good. Maybe I can keep talking. There was a couple of things that I did want to mention before I left. the other drips that we have for people who are actively ill and sick too is a very helpful thing to do. We do have people who come in who are over and before or after being sick, and we do encourage that. If you're actively sick, maybe not, but if you're trying to get over an illness or after an illness, we're a great option. Okay, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally. Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.
I'm on a radio show right now.
What's coming up?
Hi, I'm here. I'm present. Can you all hear me?
Stephanie, go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I wanted to take the opportunity to share not only how excited we are, but to share more about the Pink Berets, our present, what it is that we're accomplishing right now, the way forward. As of right now, we are positioning ourselves all over the United States. We have national chapters. These national chapters allow women to have the ability to participate and not just camaraderie, but being able to engage with other like-minded women, their sisters in arms, respectively, in their region, that can, come together and build on their community and also help build the communities around them. So as of right now with the Pink Berets, we're looking at advocacy as a huge focus for us in the coming year in 2025. And we're building a strong advocacy team. This advocacy team will enable us to be able to bring more of the issues to the forefront, and not just bring them to the forefront, but talk about all the solutions that we bring to the table and highlighting what needs to be done. The women veteran community is still a very underserved community of women, and so we are still actively looking at what that change is going to look like for us. And it takes a number of us to come together and pull this focus and to acknowledge that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and not just in our communities, but also on the Hill in Washington, D.C. This really expands our ability to start talking about the things that need to change in order for those very things to change when it comes to women's health care, when it comes to their reproductive rights, when it comes to their benefits in terms of their claims that they're filing. I mean, you run a myriad of things that we could be focused on, but it's going to take more than just a village, right? And so that's why we've really focused on increasing our footprint across the United States and giving more women a voice and giving more women the opportunity to share what it is that they feel needs to change, because we know it's different for every state. What applies in Texas doesn't apply in Chicago, doesn't apply in Florida, doesn't apply in California. And so this allows us to extend our reach and find out what those issues are in a respective region. So I'm happy to be participating with America's Heroes Group, because I really do think that you all set the platform for us to be able to highlight not only the changes that are coming, but the changes that need to happen. Thank you for having me back. So, for a brief break, I really want to highlight the significance of being able to have the platform for women to be able to learn more about what type of change is coming for them specifically, to know that the work that we're putting into place is not just the kind of work that is going to be a focus on one specific thing. There's a myriad of things that we need to focus on. One of those things is MST. MST is military sexual trauma, for those of you who are not familiar with it. And with military sexual trauma, there comes a tremendous amount of change, especially because of the landscape that's out there when it applies to MST. You still have some people that are not familiar with what it means. You have some people who are still not coming forward and discussing their incident with MST. You have people that are still afraid of the consequences of using their voice to highlight what the issues are behind military sexual trauma. So I feel within the Pink Berets, it gives us the ability to help these women find the way forward, and not just to talk about what it is that they've encountered or the traumatic event that they've had, but what can we do to improve the experience for them, especially if they're still serving. I know a number of women who are still actively serving in the United States Armed Forces who do not want to leave the military, but they do want the issue addressed of sexual harassment, anybody who's been sexually assaulted, fear of retribution. There's just a number of things that we have to turn our focus onto when it comes to military sexual trauma. If there's anything that I believe we have learned, and I mean over the course of years, it's that this does not discriminate when it comes to anybody, whether you're a woman, a man, non-binary, part of the LGBTQ community. MST does not discriminate, no more than PTSD discriminates. So doesn't discriminate. So we want to make sure that people who feel that they have the ability to speak to what it is that they're experiencing, that's going to help shape the narrative on the change that needs to take place. Now, I know when we look at the Department of Defense report, we look at either a decrease or a decrease in those statistics. But please know what still doesn't apply is the people who have not come forward and talked about the experience that they're having. This is the one thing that we need to really turn our focus onto, is those who have not come forward, those who are still needing support. And this platform is really going to give us the ability to do that. It's going to give us the ability to highlight the issues that are still taking place out there. So if we think about for a moment, you have someone that comes forward and they share their experience. They're looking for answers. They're looking for somebody to help guide them on what the next steps are. Nobody wants to stay stagnant in what it is that has resulted in them feeling like they're ostracized, or somebody feeling like they can't get the help necessary, especially when you're serving. When you're serving, you take an oath, and you take an oath to protect our country. And so in return, we want to ensure that that is being reciprocated, that the people that are feeling like they're not getting the necessary support or the necessary help, especially when they've encountered a traumatic event, we want to make sure that we're helping them on that journey, that we're helping them on that next phase of help. Because this is where we end up taking a look at numbers when it applies to suicidal ideations, or people determining that they can't move forward in life because they haven't been given a way out. They haven't been given the support or the help that they need to understand how they're going to get through this traumatic experience. We've learned about this time and time again. And so what I feel this will bring to the table is allowing us to really capture those stories, move those stories forward, help people embrace the fact that they've been part of a bad experience, but we're wanting to help them shape this experience into something different, meaning not allowing what's transpired to shape them. But we also want to bring the stories of resilience to the forefront. Too many times we tend to focus on the negative outcomes of people's experiences. But I think it's also very important to highlight the positive change that is taking place. The people who are building businesses, the people who are building organizations like the Pink Berets. You have people out there who are wanting to be part of that change. They're wanting to have a purpose. And so what we want to do is highlight what that purpose looks like. What is somebody planning on implementing when it comes to change? I can tell you, we hear numerous stories throughout the US. We have women that are starting businesses, women that are looking to grow in entrepreneurship, women who are wanting to give back to their community in a different way. And it could be because of the result of a bad experience, but they're turning that into something good. And the way that they do that is by being able to get out into their community, be involved, whether it's start a business and they can give back, or focus on a business that focuses on helping people. You know, we all become these stewards of change. We become the servant leaders, and the task is tall, meaning that when we enter a space where we're focused on helping other individuals, when we're helping to guide people and be of service to others, it's not an overnight thing. We have to really put a lot of ourselves into this to ensure that the people that we're helping are getting the necessary help. Because then what happens is those people are going to feel like somebody showed up for them, somebody cared, somebody really wanted to understand what it was that they went through and help them to the next step. That in turn turns into somebody else wanting to do the same thing. So the act of paying it forward. And that's really the message that we want to bring here as well, is we want people to feel like they have a platform where they can talk about the changes that they're making. What community are you helping build? And what can we do to help you foster that change in your community? You know, we have a lot of issues right now with food insecurities. That is just one issue that we want to highlight, and a number of issues that are out there. But we talk about food insecurities, especially as it applies to our veteran community. We see it everywhere. We have veterans who are needing help just to support their family. And that comes down to the groceries. I had somebody tell me the other day, what used to cost us, you know, $25 is now costing us $75. And it's made nearly impossible for them to be able to put food on the table. Those are the kind of issues that we're looking at. Those are the kind of issues we need to be talking about. Those are the kind of issues that we need to bring forward so that people understand the gravity of the situation, especially as it applies to our veteran community. We can't say that we're looking for ways to help and then we fall short of helping. So I think that if you find that you're learning of a new issue presented on the show, find ways to be involved. Find ways that you will implement change, especially as it applies to an issue that resonates with you. You know, homeless women veteran issues is another thing that I like to highlight because I was once there, and I want people to know it gets better. You don't have to stay in a place where you don't have a home, or you're not working, or you don't have any food on the table, or you're unable to find daycare for your children. There's ways that we can help, and there's a number of resources out there. And I think that this platform is going to give us the ability to share those resources in real time. And I'm talking about having the ability to tell you, this is where you can go if you have services that you're seeking for legal advice. That's not an easy resource to locate, but the resources are out there, and we want to be able to share those resources. So again, highlighting what resonates with our community: homelessness in the veteran community, food insecurities in our veteran community, um, in our veteran community. There's, again, a number of things that we want to bring forward, because if we bring these issues forward and we highlight them and we talk about them in real time, that's where we will see change. And that's where we will see people coming together, wanting to talk about what this looks like. Now, having this opportunity to bring a show to you on Wednesday evenings doesn't mean that it's just myself presenting these topics and speaking to the topics. We want to bring professionals in different areas, experts in different arenas, people that have shared experiences that they want to bring to you and tell you how they got through it, but also give people the guidelines for the way forward. So if you're somebody who's struggling to get to the next step in your entrepreneurship journey, we want to bring people to the table that can talk to you about what it took for them to get in the next phase of their entrepreneurship journey. Too many times we sit in our thoughts and we don't allow ourselves to understand that it's going to take more than just one person to help you gain traction in that next step in the chapter of your life, is what I like to say. What is that next chapter? Who is writing that next chapter? You are. And if you're writing that next chapter, you're going to need some people along the way to help you. And I want you to know that there are people out there ready and willing to give you the very information that you're seeking. It might be that you're looking for somebody to guide you in maybe starting a podcast. You never know what that looks like. But what I can tell you is that in the veteran community, you have people who are prepared to share what that looks like. And they're prepared to tell you what your next step should look like. And I think that that's what's going to be a really engaging but wonderful opportunity to see what those next steps look like. And it's bringing the right people to the table, but it's also bringing the things that are taking place in your very community. What's happening? What is it that is happening in every corner of the US? What can we talk about that's happening in New York? What can we talk about that's happening in California or Wyoming or South Carolina? I mean, we have access to so many individuals who really want to share their story, and not for themselves, but to help you gain an understanding of what change looks like. And I hope that you'll follow us, knowing that you're going to walk away with a newfound understanding of what it can take for you to take those next steps, but also to know that there's people out there who are providing resources that are readily available to you. We work with a number of organizations out there who are focused on different areas of veterans' needs. So one thing I can tell you that we have had to focus on, gosh, it seems like more often than none this year, is transitioning veterans who are transitioning out of the military, or veterans who are transitioning in their careers, or homeless veterans who are transitioning into a new home. We have found that you have veterans that have taken that leap of faith and have been moved into a home, but then you find that they don't have a table to sit at. They don't have a bed to sleep on. They don't have the ability to understand what it is that they're going to utilize the next day when it comes to showering. There's just the bare necessities that we tend to take for granted are the very things that our veteran community could use. And we have found that um, to be one of the main factors that impedes progress. Having the ability to garner these things that might be everyday things to you and I, that are not everyday things to them. So, necessities, things for their home, utensils, plates, pots and pans. We had one particular veteran share with us that she was getting a number of people stepping forward to support her. And it was a beautiful thing to witness how the community came together to help bring her furniture, to help bring her toys for her children, clothing for her children. I mean, you could go on the way that the community came together to help this individual. But what I can tell you is some of the things that we would not have thought of were the very things that they needed, right? So she needed towels for her bathroom, a shower curtain. She needed rugs for the floor, toothbrushes, toothpaste. I could go down the line on the list of things that needed to take place in order for this person to feel like they were moving in the right direction. It's one thing to have a roof over your head, but if you don't have a blanket to cover yourself with, or if you don't have a bed to sleep on, it kind of puts you back to a place where you feel like you're not there yet. And so it's very important for us to be able to share these resources in the community and talk about how these resources are going to impact a life. You look at Vet Strong in San Antonio, Texas, and Vet Strong has the ability to bring people furniture items that they may not have when they're moving into a new place. And for us, it allows us to help these veterans in need get these furniture pieces for their home, and then take the step forward and start getting the pieces that are necessary to pull them together. So that is just one example. But I'm telling you, it's an example for many. It's not just one person that we've encountered this with. We've encountered this with many people. And to think that something as simple as putting sheets on a bed or towels in a bathroom or plates on a table, those things are very important. And so I know I'm really focused on this specific area, but I can tell you it's because we have seen it happen more times than none this year, and we're seeing an increase in this need. You have mothers that are getting ready to um, have their babies and they don't yet have a crib, or they don't yet have all the tools necessary to be able to help them with their child. And I can tell you that it's while it's sad to witness, it's even better to know that there's people that are showing up to help them. But take those things into account. Having a platform like this to be able to vocalize what's really happening at ground zero allows you to also learn what it is that you can do to help your respective community. So if you know of somebody that is needing support, or if you know, a local woman's shelter that may need support, take those things into account. They do count on things to help them build their life once again. It takes a lot to rebuild a life, but it takes a lot for somebody to come forward and ask for help. And so when someone comes forward and asks for help, I think it's very important for us to be readily available to put in the effort to help the people that come and ask for that necessary help, especially when it applies to everyday life tools. The everyday life tools that we've become accustomed to utilizing may be some that people didn't know were in existence. So I can tell you with the Pink Berets, the change that we're making with the team that we have in place has been profound. But it's profound because people believe in the mission, people believe in being servant leaders, people believe in giving back to their community, and they also believe that change doesn't happen unless we come together and we make it happen. And so what I implore you to do is to continue being part of the show, to continue to be involved in learning what it is that we're going to be bringing to you week after week, month after month, and bringing you to the very places that we're going to visit. We have a very extensive lineup of places that will be all over the US for the rest of this year. And we want to bring you there. We want to bring you there to witness what it's like to engage with other communities, but also what it's going to take to build and foster these relationships that will help us build these communities. Because aside from the veteran community, it's going to take bringing in people that have businesses that can partner with us to help us build these platforms, to help us build our communities, to help us provide these resources. And that doesn't happen without engagement. It doesn't happen without partnerships. And it certainly doesn't happen without people establishing the belief system that what it is that we're trying to accomplish is to leave behind a legacy that will allow other people to continue building their lives. Because when we build a community, we build so much more. And we're talking about families, we're talking about businesses. We have the ability to help
Welcome to
others
AHG Connects,
thrive.
where voices,
And that's why we do what we do.
information,
And that's why we're
resources
focused on
are
bringing these
empowered
stories to you in real
intentionally.
time and letting you know what the next step is, and better yet, what you can do to come forward and help, what you can do to come forward and implement that change. Thank you so much for being with me tonight, and for also giving me the opportunity to share all the things that we're focused on in this coming year, but also having you on this journey with us is great.
Welcome to AHG Connects, where voices, information, and resources are empowered intentionally.